There's a specific moment when people realize they can't manipulate you anymore. It doesn't come with a big announcement or confrontation. Instead, it's silent. Sudden. They pull back, recalibrate, sometimes even avoid you entirely. What changed? You didn't become aggressive or hostile. You simply stopped playing the game. And here's what nobody tells you: a truly unshakable mind doesn't just protect you from others, it makes them deeply uncomfortable. Today, we're breaking down the psychological principles that create mental resilience so powerful, it actually unsettles people around you. Before we get into the specific techniques, you need to understand why this works. Stanford researchers studying social dynamics discovered something fascinating: people unconsciously test each other's boundaries within the first 90 seconds of interaction. They're looking for weaknesses, entry points, places where they can predict and influence your behavior. Most people fail these tests without realizing a test was happening. But what happens when someone becomes unpredictable, not chaotic, but genuinely self-directed? The dynamic shifts completely. Let's start with something psychologists call emotional non-reactivity. This isn't suppression or pretending you don't feel things. It's something far more sophisticated. Research from the University of California shows that people with high emotional regulation don't experience fewer emotions, they experience them differently. They've created what's called cognitive distance between stimulus and response. Here's what that looks like in practice: someone insults you. Most people's brains immediately fire up the amygdala, the threat detection center, triggering defensiveness, anger, or hurt. But a trained mind does something different. It observes the insult like a scientist examining data. Interesting. They're attempting to provoke a reaction. Why might that be? This pause, sometimes just 3 seconds, completely changes the interaction. And this is where people get scared. Because when you don't react predictably, you've removed their power. They threw a punch and you didn't flinch, didn't counter, didn't even acknowledge it as an attack. You just continued. That's deeply disorienting for someone expecting a reaction. But here's where this gets really interesting, and it's something most self-help content completely misses: the strongest minds aren't built through meditation apps or affirmations. They're forged through something psychologists call voluntary discomfort training. A Yale study on resilience found that people who regularly expose themselves to manageable stress, cold showers, difficult conversations, physical challenges, develop what researchers term stress inoculation. Your nervous system literally rewires itself. Those everyday triggers that send most people into anxiety spirals, they barely register. Think about what this means practically. While others are carefully managing their comfort zones, you're deliberately stepping outside yours. While they're avoiding conflict, you're walking directly into difficult conversations, not to fight, but because you're not afraid of tension. This creates a presence that's unmistakable, and, for some, the irony is that building an unshakable mind isn't about becoming harder or colder. MIT neuroscience research shows it's actually about becoming more conscious, more present, more genuinely yourself. When you stop performing for others' approval, stop adjusting your truth to make people comfortable, stop dimming your certainty to fit in, that's when you become formidable. So here's your question to sit with: what would you do differently today if other people's reactions simply didn't matter? Because that's not a fantasy. That's a trainable skill. And once you have it, everything changes.